like to call this meeting to order of the Geneva Historic Preservation Commission for Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. I guess our first, if you could call the roll.
Hartman.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
McManus. Phillips.
Here.
Solomon.
Here.
Stazen.
Here.
Zellner.
Here, we have a quorum. Thank you all. Okay, first, we'd like to introduce our new commissioner, Mr. Phillips, Kevin Phillips. Welcome to the commission. Can you say a few things about yourself?
Very few, sure.
Okay.
I've lived in Geneva for about 26 years. Been interested in the architecture of town, since I moved in here, and so that's probably been an impetus for, wanting to join the commission here. I think I've watched a lot of meetings on the TV, and I'm pretty impressed with how things get conducted in the commission. So when a position came available, I jumped on it, and just want to say that I hope I can, serve as well as Carolyn did. Appreciated her input on the commission, and I look forward to working with all you guys to, further the mission of the commission. So,
Great.
Thanks.
Great, thank you so much. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Lambert?
No, I think he's covered it all.
Great, okay. The first item, the next thing on our agenda is the approval of meeting minutes for April 18th, 2023. Does anyone have any comments or changes to the April 18th, 2023 meeting minutes? If not, can I get a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, should we call roll on those, or, yeah, if you would call the roll.
Hartman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Phillips.
Abstain.
Solomon. Stazen.
Aye.
Zellmer.
Aye. Okay, and then the approval meeting minutes of May 2nd, 2023. Does anyone have any comments or about those meeting minutes? If not, can I get a motion to approve those?
I give a motion to approve meeting minutes of April 22nd.
May, what's it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
May 2nd.
Apologize. May.
Okay, and? Okay,
Second.
great, thank you. And call the roll.
Hartman.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Phillips.
Abstain.
Solomon.
Abstain.
Stazen.
Aye.
Zellmer.
Aye. Great, thank you so much. Okay, next on our meeting agenda is the review of building permit applications for 201 South 3rd Street, case number 2023-021. Michael?
Thank you, Chairman Zellmer. The case for 201 South 3rd Street is a property that's located in the Central Geneva Historic District. It's located in approximately the center of both the Central Geneva Historic District as well as in the center of our local historic district. The Central Geneva Historic District, as you know, is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. The property has a long history. Prior to 1860, there had been a house built on this site for Joseph Wilson, who purchased the lot in 1869. And then the property went through a couple of owners and served as a title company office for a while before it was purchased by Meyer A. Joschel in 1911. The former Clark House that had been built, the Clark Wilson House, was being moved by Mr. Joschel to an unknown location at this point. The lot was being cleared for the construction of the present building. Mr. Joschel was a Lithuanian immigrant who came to the United States in 1886, arrived in Chicago in 1891. He came to Geneva in 1892, and beginning in 1894, he established a coal feed and grain business here in Geneva and a sister business of the same sort in St. Charles. 1 year later, he married Anna Swensdottir at Geneva, and he became one of the original directors of the Geneva Building and Loan Association, which was established in 1907. Additionally, Mr. Joshua served 3 terms as the mayor of the city of Geneva. His picture is on our west wall. He served from 1913 to 1915, 1915 to 1917, and 1921 to 1923 while he lived at 201 South 3rd Street. The present stick-style front gable residence, as I said, was erected for Mr. Joshua, his wife, and his youngest daughter, Charlotte Ruth, who moved into the home in August of 1911. Between 1912 and 1923, the house was enlarged with a 1-story addition to the east, and Mr. Joshua raised the roof of that rear wing to a full 2nd floor in 1925. In 1930, the house was again enlarged with a 2nd addition to the east side of the house. As Geneva mayor, Mr. Joshua and his wife lived in this home through 1930, but moved to another location in that year. The building was enlarged and substantially renovated for commercial use between 1977 and 1980. In most recent years, it's been used as a restaurant. The former restaurant is in the process currently of being converted for the Mandrake Restaurant, which is planned to open this summer in 2023. Redevelopment plans include extensive improvements to both the interior and exterior of the building. At the exterior, the outdoor dining area will include a stone perimeter wall, new paver brick, landscaping, pergolas, lighting, and new signage. The proposed perimeter wall, site paving, and pergolas all fall under the review responsibilities of the Historic Preservation Commission. The proposed outdoor dining patio will occupy approximately the same area as the existing dining patio of the previous restaurant. The proposed perimeter wall will begin at the north edge of the 3rd Street entry steps and extend northward along 3rd Street towards Campbell Street. So just looking at now, this is a image from 2018 showing the current patio and the current concrete wall that is surrounding the entry steps to the restaurant, and then the rest of the property currently is surrounded by a perimeter iron picket fence. After its extension along 3rd Street, it will head eastward on, the proposed masonry wall will run eastward on Campbell Street to the west edge of the existing asphalt service drive at the far eastern edge of the property. There will be an exit gate located on the Campbell Street frontage, and then a multiple level pergola structure is proposed at the northwest corner of the property, covering one of the proposed dining areas. So again, this is the house itself with the additions through the 1930s. This is a context site plan of the property showing the improvement area for the outdoor patio, again located at the southeast corner of Campbell and 3rd Street. For reference and context in the neighborhood, across the street is a 1-story building that was built in the 1960s. To the northwest is the courthouse, which sits in an open landscape lawn. And then immediately west of the property is the 200 South 3rd Street property that was renovated several times in the late 1990s and early 2000s, which included the construction of a brick perimeter wall on that property as well. So this is a detailed site plan. I'll let the applicant talk about this more. Again, I wanted to point out a few of the design features that are being proposed. As I said, currently from the 1980s, there's a kind of brutalistic concrete wall that flanks the entry steps into the restaurant. The proposal is to provide a limestone perimeter wall, including at the entrance steps the addition of a simple sign that meets the sign ordinance. The proposal includes, like I said, the seating areas with paver brick, a raised pergola, the 3-foot-high limestone wall, which is outside of the required visibility triangle, so it will not obstruct views of oncoming traffic at Campbell and 3rd. Submitted images of the types of pavers. I do have the actual paver samples here and the wall samples here, so if you want to have them passed around or if you want to get up and look at them, they will give you a little bit of a workout, but we can certainly pass those around. So, in the staff report, I provided a summary of the SOI standards. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I did want to highlight them not only for those who are attending in person, but for those who may be watching at home. The conformity to the SOI standards, standard number 1 is that a property shall be used for its historic purpose or be placed in a new use that requires minimal change to the defining characteristics of the building and its site and its environment. As I've stated, the property has been converted previously for commercial purposes and has included outdoor dining at the corner of 3rd and Campbell for many years. The historic SOI standard number 2, the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The character of both the existing historic property and the 3rd Street neighborhood is defined by both architecture and environment, and that was discussed in greater detail in the staff report. SOI Standard 3 is that each property shall be recognized as a physical record of its time and place and use. As I identified in the staff report, a masonry perimeter wall, or any perimeter wall for that matter, may create a false sense of the historic character of the lawn area surrounding the Joshua House. However, the historic landscape of the Joshua House has been heavily altered when the house was first converted for commercial use and has been further altered by past occupancies of the property. Furthermore, as I pointed out, there are other retaining walls in the immediate neighborhood along 3rd Street. SOI standard number 4, most properties change over time, and those changes that have acquired historic significance in their own right shall be retained and preserved. None of the proposed improvements will alter or destroy historically significant features of the building or site. In fact, many of those had been altered previously in the 1990 or 1980s, 1990s conversion. SOI Standard 5 is that the distinctive features shall be preserved, and again, none of the proposed improvements will alter any distinctive features that remain of the existing building or site. SOI Standard number 6 is deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced, and again, none of the proposed site improvements will be impacting deteriorated features of the building or site. SOI Standard 7 is regarding chemical or physical treatments such as sandblasting that may cause damage, and again, that's not applicable to this proposed work. SOI Standard 8 is that significant archaeological resources will be protected. As mentioned in the staff report, the property has been disturbed significantly since 1911, not only with the relocation of the original house, but the construction of the present house, and then existing landscape and patio improvements that were made by prior tenants. SOI Standard number 9 is new additions, exterior alterations, or related construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property, and any new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property. As I identified in the staff report, none of the proposed improvements will alter or destroy historically significant features of the building or site. The proposed modifications are distinguished and differentiated from the historic architecture of the property, and the proposed improvements could be removed in the future without alteration of the historic building. And that ties into SOI Standard number 10, that additions and alterations shall be, if removed in the future, will not alter the essential form and integrity of the historic property. And again, neither the perimeter wall or the pergolas of wood elements is proposed to be attached directly to the historic residence, and the site has already been altered through previous renovations. The design guidelines for historic properties, which is adopted here at the City of Geneva, identifies several elements. The overarching goal is to preserve historic buildings, and the submitted proposal seeks to preserve the historic portions that remain of the M.A. Anna Joshua House. The design guidelines also call for the preservation of historic buildings in their original settings, and there is no proposal to alter the building on the site. Historic building materials and building configuration will be maintained and will not be affected by the proposed site alterations. Similarly, historic building materials will be maintained. The proposal for the outdoor modifications will not alter the historic features of the historic home that remain, and there were no historic features left on the site that could be documented. The design guidelines for historic properties also identify that fences and walls should be erected in a manner that do not adversely affect historic properties. The proposed masonry perimeter wall and wooden pergolas will not adversely affect the historic features of the property, but should be evaluated for their combined potential impact of views of the historic Joshua House from 3rd and Campbell Streets, the experience of landscape yards to adjacent streets, and the overall character of 3rd Street. Additionally, the design guidelines call for a maintenance of the pattern of paved and unpaved areas, and as mentioned, this proposal does not depart substantially from existing paved areas in the outdoor dining area of the previous restaurant. And then, as mentioned earlier, the sign does comply with the zoning ordinance, and it does complement the historic building without altering the historic building itself. Lastly, while exterior lighting is not addressed specifically in the adopted design guidelines, we have looked at lighting in certain aspects on historic buildings, but the applicant has indicated that their preference is for low-intensity lighting to be installed at the site, with a preference for avoiding adding visual clutter such as string lights or other types of festoon lighting. So sensitivity has been, again, looked at to preserve the historic character of the street, but also protect some historic views of the historic home. So with that, I would turn the podium over to the group from Mandrake, and if you'd like to come to the podium and introduce yourself and fill in any gaps, and I can go back and forward with the with any slides you'd like to have brought up.
Thanks for coming up. So my name is Adrian Frost. I'm one of the partners for the Mandrake Restaurant Group. We're very happy to be here. My partner and I have been dining in Geneva for the better part of 20 years and have fantasized about a restaurant in downtown Geneva for a very long time. So I'm hoping this proposed concept does you all proud.
I'm Brandon Hansen. I'm also one of the partners of Mandrake. Also a partner on Hansen Landscape, which we will be hopefully doing all of the outdoor landscaping improvements at the restaurant.
The floor is mine.
First,
All right. I don't know how much I have to add to this, other than we originally wanted something a little more organic and flowing in the space, but we realized we did want to preserve as much of the exterior historical character of the building as possible, which led us to this sort of subdued, linear aspect of the patio. And the pergola itself, we tried to mimic the lines of the floors coming down, like the second floor, the build-out of the, what I'm assuming was probably like an entryway patio kind of space, so that depending on where you're standing at the corner, the pergola should kind of mimic those same lines. I think probably the pergola is probably the most visually strong element of the space. So I don't know if you guys want to start there with the discussion or questions and work your way down to the retaining walls, or pretty much just here to answer questions for you guys.
And all the material that we are proposing to use is, we're trying to keep it in that historical, line of what kind of products are used around the historic district. Hence the limestone that we're going to be using. I believe, is that coming from Fox Valley down there? On 25? Might be coming from there anyway, over in Batavia. So we're just, trying to go by the guidelines of the historic preservation too. So. And improve the site that is what is not there right now. It's a lot of mulch, and it really just does not look good at all. Concrete. It's been kind of let go over the past few years, and we would like to drastically improve it.
Okay.
That's it, really.
I have a question.
yeah, go ahead.
Could you tell us a little bit about the stone wall there, like its dimensions, and whether or not that pattern that we see there will be the pattern that the
Sure.
rock?
Dave is my designer. He came up with this concept with my help and Adrian's help, so if I could. have Dave.
If you could introduce yourself to.
Yeah, my name is David Kale. I'm the landscape designer for
Okay.
Hanson. So yeah, anyways, with the wall, it's pretty much a limestone, product, natural. It's going to be very similar to that pattern that's up there.
Is it a veneer or is
It's
it?
a veneer,
Okay.
yeah. And then we construct it with the cinder blocks in the middle, and then we mortar on the sides, and then we go down about 12-inch for the base, concrete base, and then we got piers going down 48 inches. every
Was
so
there
often.
some, did you consider other barriers for that instead of the stone wall? Just curious with your thought
No,
process in
just
deciding on
stone
that.
wall, just for aesthetics, look nice, kind of bring in some, with all the wood that's going around the rest of the area, bring in some stone, some natural stone to kind of give it a nice look.
Well, we did think about brick briefly, and then we took a round at the four other corners and realized there's a lot of brick already. So we thought
Across the
maybe-
street,
Yeah,
for
we thought
example.
mixing it up with another period-appropriate stone that still resonated with the building and the rest of the patio would still keep it in character without it looking too matchy-matchy, if that makes sense.
How high is the barrier wall?
3 feet.
It's 3 feet?
And that's per code, right? You have to be at least 3 foot high to be able to do,
It is code.
okay, to be able to serve alcohol in that space? Is that what's driving that? Or is
Well,
it
it's
just-
a mix of, we're trying to grade the property a little bit better. It is
Okay.
currently a little bit of a safety hazard, especially if you're wearing high heels.
Yeah.
And we're also for the liquor
Yeah.
consumption as well. We try to consider both of the safety of the grading. and
For me, it's a landscaping thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I kind of like the separation between everything else and the space that it's in, so that our patrons can feel like they're, in the space of the restaurant and not just kind of next to the sidewalk with everybody walking by. I mean, it's still going to be that, but it's kind of more of a, separation. Originally, I wanted, being a landscaper, I wanted to put a flower, I wanted to build flower pots all the way down the whole thing, fill them with flowers and everything, but that would not be too historic code. So, but that's originally what I kind of wanted to do, was just have lots of flowers overflowing, not even really seedable, but
I have a question. On the renderings there, on the Third Street side, the wall ends and then there's a gap. I'm looking at the site plan, and according to the site plan, the wall goes all the way to the stairs. Oh,
No, that's a step. We'll have one step. Are you talking about going from?
could we flip, the middle, top one there, that's Third Street elevation, right?
we took that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it ends abruptly, but then, Michael, could we go back to the site plan, please? There, it looks like the wall goes all the way to the steps. So which is it? Or I'm missing something here?
All right,
On the Third Street side, you see there's a note that says paver wall extends all the way to the entry steps.
So I believe.
Yeah, that wall comes from what's there now. The wall is a little bit longer, so we
Well, go back to
reposition.
that so that elevation is not correct then, that rendering then. See the gap? Right there.
Yeah, that's, okay, that comes down farther than what's there currently.
So that's where the existing opening is for the gate right now, the 2 points of egress into that space.
Could you go to
Then go back to the plan, I'm still
or actually
missing.
go to the current picture too, because I think that might be,
Yeah, I see where you're talking.
is it,
That
There's
wall,
another one down.
yeah, that wall to the left will continue probably another 10, give or take 10 feet. So it's going to continue farther down, and that's where the new opening's going to be.
Concrete, or will that also?
Is there?
That'll be
I think
veneer.
there was another picture showing, there you go. See,
Yeah.
there's a second point of egress right there. That's that opening. We just moved it down.
So in that picture there, there's 3 different openings there. There's one that's got a fence blocked over. So we're going to cover up that first one on the
Yes.
left and
There's-
then
There's one there, and then there's actually another one
around the corner.
around the corner.
So there'll only be 2 entrances, one on each street, whereas right now we're showing basically
Right,
3
right.
on the one street. So we're going to close off those 2 and just have an extended wall. Okay, cool.
Could we go back to that site plan again, then, please? There's a bigger one, Michael, that you had there. So that wall is not shown continuous on that site plan?
I can't get up here, but, if,
It is?
right,
I don't see any openings on it.
Yeah, no, there is an opening. It's,
right,
do you see where the pavers are?
yes, right there.
From there to the, where the
That's the other
paver runs.
One more time in the rendering, please, Michael. Then I'll let it go. There.
Yes.
All right, so that's the first
Okay,
opening.
so it's under the portion of the pergola that may obscure it on the site thing.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. I'll take your word for it, thank you.
Sure, no problem.
But now where did I heard liquor, I'm not that familiar with the codes and the 3-foot wall, so the tables can only be behind the wall then? Not in that open part that's right there? Under the other half of the pergola?
I don't deal with the liquor.
Right,
code,
right.
But the outdoor diner must be defined, is my understanding of it. So
defined,
there are
not
still openings and
restrained.
gateways,
Okay.
correct. There are openings
Or
in.
constrained,
correct.
okay.
And that really is our walking path, that's our sidewalk kind of going in.
Right,
So we would put tables there.
okay.
That's
But
not-
yeah, but you do have, okay, a part of the pergola's there too.
And I believe that, if I'm correct, we're gonna have some lounge seating out there.
That's
too,
correct.
Right, yeah. A lot of that is just mainly gonna be small table lounge seating.
Okay.
Kind of a more of a waiting area
Can you,
before you go into dinner.
can you stay near the microphone
sorry.
so people who
Sure.
are, it's being recorded and people are watching live, so.
Okay, sorry about that.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a lounging area, waiting area. There'll be a few tables out there, but mainly it's, serving, drinks, and then everybody will go inside for dinner.
Will people also be able to access it by going up the stairs towards the front door, and then
So
be an entrance into the yard area from the front?
primary entrance to both the restaurant and the patio will be up through the stairs. We don't really want people just sort of wandering willy-nilly through the
So that's
space.
more of an exit than an entrance.
So as a rule, even though the walls are only 3 foot tall, depending on your station in life, you might not be able to heave yourself over that 3 foot wall if there's an emergency. So we like to have lots of points of egress just in case.
So those are by fire code, you have one on Third
By
Street?
code,
and-
we have to have 2
Yep.
points of egress,
Okay.
not including the entrance where the stairs are coming in and going.
Gotcha, okay.
Because also our ADA ramp is there, so it has to be accessible ADA. The other way would be stairs and would not be.
And you'll be adding landscaping of some kind, like vegetation?
Absolutely.
Yes.
We're just not, we wanted to keep it all out of the plan at the moment, so you guys could all see the pavers and the hard structures before we
Right.
just threw a bunch of views and stuff in there. and
It's
made it
going to
hard
be
read.
mostly soft plant material, grasses, perennial grasses. I think you had, you had a couple shrubs in there, right?
Yeah, hydrangea.
Hydrangeas, stuff with a little bit of color, And just soft kind of, soft landscaping, nothing, no pine trees or trees of any sort. It's all gonna be low lying.
Will the tops of that vegetation be visible over the wall from the street?
You might get a little bit coming up, like on a grass or something, the flower on top of a grass. But most of it is going to be all not visible. It'll be tucked behind.
What are the materials used for the pergola itself?
We got womanized and then cedar. Womanized and cedar, we'll wrap it with cedar.
So it's all it'll be framed in treated and wrapped in cedar?
Yeah.
Correct.
Is it painted then? Because
Yeah,
if
we'll
you're
be
showing
s-
it black,
yeah,
is that the
we'll be
intent to
staining
be
it.
We
black?
have a dark charcoal color we'll be using on the pergola, on the sign, and hopefully as trim for the building when we repaint it as
And
well.
it's more of a stain than a paint.
Oh,
So you'll still be able to see the wood grain through everything.
How big are the members on that pergola? What's the size of those columns?
We got 2x8s on the top, and then 6x6 for the post.
Oh, the stringers are, and 6x6 on, okay. It looks a little heavier.
Yeah, it's
there
just the
than,
renderings.
It looks a lot heavier
It's just
than
the
that.
computer render, that's how it kind of comes out. They're 2x8s.
So how high is the pergola, are the pergolas?
8 feet clearance,
8 feet?
8
Well, if
feet.
the wall's 3, it's probably showing a little bit more than that, but to the top or the under, clear?
Clear.
Okay.
Is there going to be any exposed,
The clearance is 8.
Don Hartman, is there going to be any exposed treated lumber?
No.
None,
I don't believe so.
okay?
I am just a little concerned about the pergolas taking away from the view of the building, because I'm having a hard time visualizing from that example up there, and have a hard time visualizing anyways if I can't actually see the product. So I'm thinking, because when you're facing the building, and the pergolas are going to be right in front, correct?
Could we go back to the flat design? So, in front of the building, we did stop that pergola right before the building starts. So if you're standing in front of the building,
Oh,
you
okay.
can see the whole building. The only time that it's gonna be a little obstructed is if you're like on the corner.
Quarter.
And that's
Like
it.
kitty
But-
corner from it,
Right. If
which
you're
is-
right in front, you can see the whole building, just past the pergola. I guess on the east side, again, then you can see the whole building. The only time it would be a little bit obstructed is if you were on the corner at where the sidewalk and on the
Which is
corner.
why we tried for the varying heights of the pergola.
Right.
To allow for some visual play with the building itself, rather than just a straight across pergola.
do you know whether the pergola is going to be lower than that roof at that point? There's a porch out there that we're looking at in the left side there. Well, actually, yeah, is that pergola lower than that level?
It is,
Okay.
just slightly lower than that. The middle part of the pergola is the highest, and it's
Yeah.
just below the visual line. If you're standing kitty corner from
Okay.
the property, the pergola would be just under the porch, whatever, I don't know if that's a porch or a sunroom or what that used to be. It's currently going to be our lounge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because we also considered it from the people sitting inside the restaurant as well. They don't really want to look out onto a pergola necessarily, so we try to balance the visuals from outside as well as inside.
Yeah, that's a good point. Could we go back to that 2018 photo, Michael, please?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think your transformers are to scale on your renderings. That's what I was on that corner.
Oh, no,
Those
huge.
things
Those
are,
things are huge.
yes.
They're massive.
Now, are they gonna get smaller, or are you stuck with those as they are?
We're not
We can't-
messing with
we're
them.
not- we
Okay.
can't touch any of that,
Okay.
so.
Well, and I guess I echo your concern on, the pergola's fine, I guess. I didn't pick up that it was varying heights, but the wall then, here, that corner is tight to begin with. And with the fence in there, at least there was some opening that reduced the massing on that particular corner. But now we have a larger mass, obviously, and then something that's a structure that's right. My concern, all the elements I think are great, but getting that everything's converging on that particular corner there, and the pergola comes out right to that corner, it just seems that it's going to dominate that whole particular walkway intersection. Those sidewalks aren't very big as they are, and all that massing in that one particular spot is of some concern to me. And I'd like to share with you what I do about it, and I haven't a clue. So,
Our other alternative was giant sails.
uh-huh,
We thought the pergola.
yeah,
was a little better.
I thought
well,
the pergola would
you know,
fit
I
a little
like,
bit more of the kind of historic vibe.
yeah, but it's just
Those
the
giant
color
sails.
and the massing of it, and it just right at the, on the property line, like right in your face on that corner, with all that other stuff going on with those walls there, I don't know.
May I ask a
I mean,
question?
I could have a suggestion.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your question. I'm sorry.
For the fence, and I kind of agree with what the commissioner's saying as far as the mass of that wall and the pergola there, but there are examples in town of other fences or, potential retaining walls that are like, they're like a rock wall that's maybe 2 feet high, and then that next foot to make it, for the liquor control, aspect, they use some type of fencing like that. So you don't have a 3-foot solid wall there, you have a 2-foot wall, stone, and then you have fencing similar to what's there, but only like a foot high. So that gives kind of an opening into the yard, into the lawn, where you don't, your view is just not totally blocked off by a wall and then the pergola. And typically, there's some visible vegetation that you can see through that fence that adds a little bit of, variation to what you're looking at. So I don't know if something like that was considered or could be considered.
I would just like to have a clarification. It was stated earlier, I'm not picking anything, but that historic didn't allow for green and growing on the top of the wall. Historic wouldn't prevent that. So if that was something that would, maybe was what you were originally desiring to do.
Originally
And what the
originally that's what
commission's
I
looking
wanted
for
to do.
something softer, maybe that's a compromise to go back to some kind of a planter that, is a little more,
I could
going back to
easily-
organic.
Yes, I could easily drop that wall 2 feet.
Have you been down to 318 grams?
Yes.
They have a wall similar to that in front of their place. It's like, 1.5 to 2 feet of, limestone, old limestone. It's got large limestone pillars, but in between those pillars, they have some type of wrought iron or, metal fence that, and they have a lot of vegetation behind that, but,
Well, I mean, believe me, I own a landscape company, I'm a landscaper. There's going to be a lot of vegetation inside there, but it's going to be more flower pots with
sure.
palm trees and, that kind of thing going on out there. A lot of color as far as flowers go. I mean, you can look on our website and see a lot of the annual displays that we do. and that'll kind of give you a vibe of what it's gonna look like out there. It will more than likely probably be don't wanna toot my own horn, but the best
Go ahead, you
patio
can do
on the
that.
strip there. I'm just saying.
The restaurant
I know,
itself, the restaurant itself is very botanically focused. Like, we try to grow as much of our own produce as possible, et cetera and so forth. So our ideal situation would be have as much greenery going on in the patio seasonally as possible. We've even considered planting topiary yews and stuff into pots that can be moved around in the wintertime to keep it visually appealing, balanced around what it otherwise would be just a dead gray space in the wintertime. But we
Yeah,
do-
that was the other concern, the
we do need the
wintertime when
gray,
it's
we do
not-
need the stonework and stuff to balance all that with the house
Yeah.
as well.
Quick question, just for clarification. Looking at this view here, so we've got the concrete wall over there. That's going to go away. Okay, so we're going to get rid of that ugly-ass concrete wall.
Yes.
And we're going to put the limestone wall going down there. We're going to have,
And I believe that wall is, if I'm not mistaken, is higher than 3 feet right now, correct?
It's very close to
It's, I mean, that thing is, up here, almost hip level.
It's close to the height that the
Yeah.
stone wall would be, I think.
It's a little bit higher, I think, than what we're proposing. And it's, again, it's an eyesore.
so that fenced entrance is going to become the main entrance now,
The main entrance will still be up the stairs
to the right,
to,
over there
Yes,
by where the sign is.
correct.
Now, what about the concrete wall where that, on the other side of the stairway?
I don't believe that's on,
It's right halfway with your,
No, that's,
That's
we
somebody
don't
else.
have any control over
Okay.
that,
No,
unfortunately.
no, hey,
I believe that's.
We would love to do something about it,
Livia's
but
there.
that's on somebody else's property.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay, so we're
Correct.
gonna have the stairways there, then we're gonna have the wall going straight down, going through that current fenced-in entrance. We're gonna have the other entrance right there, which is gonna be under the pergola. And then around the corner, we'll have the other entrance here that also feed towards the
Correct.
ADA ramp.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, I could talk to Livia and say, hey, you want me to wrap their concrete portion in the stone, the same stone we're gonna use, and it would look the same on both sides?
I mean, my opinions, my concerns are, minimal at best. I mean, I think I don't have an issue with the pergola on the corner. I think it's gonna be kind of a contrasting architectural piece to the building itself. You said there's gonna be some trim painting that's gonna be staining, whatever.
Correct.
That's gonna be the same of the pergola, so it'll kind of bring the two together. But, right now, that's kind of a dead space. I mean, there's nothing ever really going on there.
Yeah.
And so now this is gonna have a little more activity, it's gonna have a little more energy.
Correct.
And
Right now,
as
it's
far-
just, it's really just mulch beds out there.
I agree.
With a concrete sidewalk going through it. And to me, it's unusable.
Well,
It's just,
Well, what you're doing is curating a gathering space there.
yes.
And any casual space. Like I said, I don't think the pergola is gonna overpower that building, because the building is 8 times bigger than the pergola will ever be. And yeah, I understand. If you stand on that very corner there, okay, what are you gonna have? You're gonna have a pergola in your face, but, you move anywhere else, it's gonna be, I guess, bottom line is, I think the limestone with the walls that you're gonna be doing there, getting rid of that ugly concrete one, and rather than having variations of materials and design that we have right now, we'll kind of uniform it, and I'm cool.
Yeah, and it will be kept and manicured as well. Hanson Landscape will be maintaining everything there as well, so it will be manicured perfectly once a week,
at least.
at least. Probably maybe more like 2 or 3 times, I'm guessing, with this guy here, so.
I just have one more question on the pergola size. You said, like, this view here, that the end of the pergola is not going to extend into the building view.
Correct.
What about on the Campbell's Street side, how far down Campbell Street does
Do
that
we have a
extend?
view of Campbell?
I believe it's only that porch, added porch area on the front is where it's kind of wrapping to.
Well, you know, you got a door up there at the top of the ADA ramp.
Correct.
Does it go
It
as
goes
that
right to
far
that door.
east?
It goes right to the door.
So the door still looks out straight out over the
Okay.
patio to the street. The pergola would be just to the left,
Right.
Okay.
if you were looking through the door from the inside of the
Sure.
building.
And then will you have seating all the way down Campbell? Because I know
No.
the plan is to have the wall go all the way down to the driveway.
Now, if you see that little bump out there with, it has the turf kind of around it, that's gonna be plant material, actually. That's gonna be a little bit of seating area, but that's really it. The other sidewalk, is the sidewalk that, right now it's concrete. I'm also ripping that out and replacing that for the tenants that are renting upstairs from Shooting.
That little square at the end of that path towards the, I believe I'm looking eastward, that's going to be our portable, yes, right there. That's going to be our portable cocktail bar.
So there won't be any seating to the east there in that grass area?
Not that we're thinking at the moment. We've thought about some lounge furniture in this space,
Yeah.
but we also come back to a lot of the guests coming to the restaurant,
They're gonna have high heels on. and-
or nicer shoes and walking
shoes.
through grass, especially if it just got mowed. So we're thinking it's probably just going to be planted up and landscaped as nice as we can as a visual balance, so it still stays consistent with the space. So there'll be more, you're referring to weight earlier. So if you're looking at the building from across the street, the idea would be the weight of vegetation to the east would balance out the pergola off to the west. But we refrained from putting all the vegetation plants in there just because you guys would need to be able to see the actual layout of the walls and the pavers themselves. You throw a bunch of giant green dots on there and everything starts getting messy.
Gets a little cluttered.
A little
So there
bit.
will be still tables with umbrellas? on
No.
the pro- No
No.
umbrellas
So
anywhere?
part of our interest in the pergola was to get rid of the umbrellas completely. They're kind of hard to manage.
Yeah.
They kind of look,
There'll-
I'm just not a
There'll be
fan
no
of them.
Coors Light, little Miller Light umbrellas out there, no.
Corona.
None of that, no.
it's just not our
No.
vibe.
Okay,
That's not what we're going for.
okay. The existing ADA deck, you're just going back with decking back on that
Yes, but it'll be colored to match the new, we're going with a green and charcoal paint scheme for the
Okay.
building. And the ramp will match that gray, that dark gray, which will also be the same, relatively the same color as the pergola, the sign backing, and a couple other elements. Our patio furniture is going to be pretty close to the same as well. We're trying to keep some visual consistency and having the green of the building and all the plants balance the lighter gray of the patio itself.
What are we going, what are we replacing the?
It's Trex decking.
Tricks. There we go.
Okay.
Composite, so
It won't rot
there
on us.
won't be any rotting, there won't be any cracking, splitting, hazards for, patrons coming up.
Yep. Does, any other questions or comments?
I'm in agreement with George as far as visually, there's a couple of comments on how, if you're looking at a kitty corner or caddy corner, it's really the only obstruction. I think it's a well-designed layout. I don't think the pergola, takes over the structure, the existing building itself. I think it's a good layout. And with the knee wall, I know you're following some code there too, but as far as the knee wall height and the pergola and dimensional sizes of some of that stuff, I think it's a well-drawn out plan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This man has put about 500 hours into it right now, so.
That's all?
Would you be against having anything, something growing out of the top of the wall and then flowing over it? I mean, that would really kind of.
No,
We'd be very into that,
I would
actually.
love that.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
just didn't know if you would allow that or not.
I
But
don't
that
see.
was my original,
Does anyone have an
idea.
issue with that? I mean, I think that would soften it quite a bit.
Yeah, I would agree to that because
Yeah,
I-
because bring up the picture of the, what's her name's, the pass basket. Oh, I know it from 4 or 5 people. Well, see, they don't even have anything to spill over, but yeah, I could almost see something spilling over on that and then being able to like
What I
soften
wanted to
that.
do was during the summer, I wanted to put a lot of lime potato vine in there growing up that will flow over, some blacky potato vine to kind of contrast that.
Yeah,
With maybe some wave petunias in there, a couple cannas here and there, kind of sporadic through there, so it kind of flows. You know, you got an even kind of height difference going on in there, color contrast, very inviting.
yeah.
you embed those into the top of the wall, like boxes that
Yeah,
could
they
grow
wouldn't be
the-
wood. We would do them.
Yeah, that would be metal or
Basic,
something.
no,
No.
I would actually probably, we would build those out of the same caps, the kind of stone that we're using for the caps on top.
Okay.
So there would be a stone looking, or I could do more of a metal type, wrought iron look in there. I just don't know how that would look, how well that would look over the winter time. But in the wintertime then, I would fill all of those with winter decor. So pine boughs and birch branches and,
Yeah,
red twig dogwood branches and winterberry. So it would be a 4-season color change. So in spring, we'd have pansies in there and tulips and hyacinths. Then we'd go over to summer, and then in the fall, it would be completely planted with mums and kale and that kind of plant material. And then over the wintertime, it would be all winter decor.
that'd be
We'll
cool.
be planting some ivy as well to reference the large amount of ivy growing on the Campbell Street side of the building.
Yeah.
It's been there for quite a while. We'd like to continue that as a theme in other parts of the patio as well.
Okay.
Yeah, anything that you
would
could
that
do
be-
to soften that wall
Yeah,
would be
I think softening that wall.
advantageous.
We also want to make
Is that
make the
something that,
patio look
Michael,
like it's
if
been there
we-
for a while.
If we approve this with that caveat to it, was that something that,
I don't know, this is more, sorry, this is really what I'm thinking about on top of that, the
Yeah.
plant material.
I think something like that is key.
Flowing
Yeah.
and nice and
That's-
soft texture,
It's beautiful. That's really nice.
that's what I.
cool?
Anything to keep that wall from being, using the term brutalist, kind of, view into the yard area there.
Well,
I think, I
sorry,
think
go ahead.
what, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm done, I'm sorry.
I guess what we would want to see is, and it's something that, I'd like to see the planter built into that wall, basically.
I can drop that 2 feet, and then the planter would be the top.
Yeah.
So
and
it'd
that-
still be
and
the
that-
same height. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna.
and that's
I'm not
what I
gonna
would
put
like, I
another
wouldn't
foot on
want to
top
see
of there.
anything taller than
Yeah,
that.
no, the
to
base
start
would
with.
be that 2 feet, and then that
Yeah,
planter
and
would
then-
be on.
Because,
on top.
and then also, it is, right now, the pergola is a little bit amorphous. We don't have a real good, clear idea of exactly the number of, we see some spacing on this site plan, but it's not real, is it 12 inches on center, 16 inches on center type of thing?
This is really what it would look like out there after the stuff, minus the wall.
Okay. So do you have any idea of what dimensionally,
He's got that lead one.
Yeah, it's
it'll be a
24
darker
inch
stained.
at center on the top.
Still wood
okay,
grain, but just
24
darker
inches on center on the top?
Yeah.
And, okay,
So it's not overbearing, it's not Oh,
Okay, yeah. Well, okay, so 24 inches on center on the,
very open too.
and then open, and then there's like bearing stuff going at 24 inches on center, and then another line going the other direction?
Or we could just do it, just one, and then have no top at all. There's two ways we can do it.
I think I'd rather see it without any kind of top at all,
Yeah,
because
that's-
I think I want to keep it as light as possible,
Very simple.
simple and that sort of thing. So if
Yep.
we could, I guess with our approval, we'd probably state that you got to keep it with one level of structure and not a second level of,
Basically a flat roof.
a second flat area, And that way, I think that the city's going to probably ask for additional details regarding what that exactly looks like. Is that true, Michael?
What I need from the commission is what your requirements
Approving,
are.
yeah.
So I can implement what you're expecting to see out there. So if you are wanting the wall to be a certain height, or not to exceed a certain height, again, it has to meet with what the liquor code says too, as far as finished height for the enclosure. If you want the pergola to have certain details, make sure your motion carries that, so I know what to translate back to the applicant and make sure that's what's built. But you've all kind of pointed out that there's a lot of fluidity right now.
Correct.
And the commission typically hasn't done well with fluidity. So give me what you're expecting and making sure they are agreeing to that, and then I will make sure that's what gets done out in the field.
Okay,
We just built one for Craft Urban too, at their Aurora location.
okay. So what I'm hearing is we'd have just one, the pergola itself would be, the structure would be 24 inches on center, one direction only, not a flat roof type thing, correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay. There'd still be structure going the other direction, at least at the post, to be able to hold all that up.
Correct.
But then, so I think, is that acceptable to
Sure.
the commission?
As long
Just
as it
keep it
doesn't
as,
extend into the front view of the building.
So
Yeah.
It's,
That was their point of cutting that.
it's
cutting that.
linear, not a grid then? Is that what you're trying to say?
well, it sounds like,
The members are only running one direction?
well, there's gonna be posts, a perimeter post system, a perimeter beam system, and then linear going one direction, correct?
Correct, yes.
Which is a typical pergola.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. So nothing going the other direction perpendicular to that.
And which way they gonna run?
Probably east-west, as it wouldn't contradict the front of the building. It aesthetically follow along the length of the building and make a little bit more sense.
It would follow
Okay.
the lines of the patio and the wall as well.
Paul, my only concern is having exposed treated lumber.
Yeah,
I think
and,
it's-
and they're,
It's not going to hold up well.
are they having exposed treated lumber, or are they
No.
having,
Not a bit.
We're using cedar for the top.
Okay.
so they're, okay. And then I think that what I'm picking up from the commission is, we would like to see the planter, but then have,
Yeah.
but it only be to the level of the planter, and that, to the level that it needs to be, and let it flow from there, so.
I think the question is, do you need a 2-foot
A
stone
2-foot.
wall, and then the next
Well,
foot
I
is?
guess it kind of like,
Planter.
the planter becomes part of the wall,
So it'd be like a 3-foot wall with the planter built in.
basically,
Yeah.
Cool.
yeah. So this is gonna be a tricky little motion. George?
Wait, George,
I
I'll
mean,
make it,
do you agree with it, I guess, George?
I am not sure yet.
You're not, okay, what's your
I mean,
concern?
I hate to, kind of dictate. I know you're looking for specifics because generalities aren't going to help you any more than it's going to help us. But I'm not doing it and you are, so I was comfortable with saying minimize the massing of that. And I think if we're just running the members one way and not going with a grid, that should reduce the overall mass of that substantially.
Yeah.
And you're talking about running from third to second with the members?
yes.
Correct.
Which would be, I think that would help that corner immeasurably. So yeah, I could live with that.
Okay.
Question, because
You have a question,
the devil is always in the details on these things, and I'm always the one
Right.
who's having to figure out what everybody meant. So is there a detail on the end of the girders and the purlins, on the pergola?
They're all straight.
They're all
So
straight,
in
just
the,
so everybody's
in
clear.
the graphics, the software only allows those scalloped edges, which I know are super popular in like older residential areas. We want straight, clean, linear ends on all of the pergolas because we don't want them to draw attention from the building itself.
I think that's a good solution because
Right.
it makes it, that tells you that it's not going for that false historical.
Correct.
look. So,
Unfortunately, our program will only show it
Right.
that
yeah,
way.
that-
You're gonna do those little lights then underneath?
No string
that?
No
lights.
string
No.
lights.
No
String
string
lights.
lights.
I got
No.
a thing about string lights.
No
I-
string
Okay.
lights.
yeah, that,
Well, that's become a cliche.
So the
but-
pergola have a single grid pattern.
single, well,
I believe we
One
have just some
direction.
small,
one direction,
soft,
single purlin
small,
direction.
soft lighting puck lights, just very
Right.
soft, kind of dim lighting.
I got it.
Okay.
You will need beams, obviously, to connect all the columns in
Yeah,
both
that,
directions.
well, the beam
that's
and
where
then the
the
pergola
doors will
itself is
rest.
just
Yeah.
going in one
Okay.
direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
One more question, because I know this will come up on a pergola. Are you using exposed hardware, or is it all concealed hardware to connect your pergola members?
Everything will be concealed.
Is that what the commission's okay with?
Cool. I'm fine with that. Again, okay. George, you want to try to craft a one and then I can beat it up? No.
We can figure it out.
I got one more
Yes,
question.
ma'am. Two more.
I'm not clear on what the commission has decided, or maybe what you guys are leaning towards as far as softening the wall. I mean, the details of how that would be
So
accomplished.
we all agreed with the wall itself. We dropped a little bit, and the last third, that last foot would be a
Okay.
planter that matches the wall
So it would be
for
If the
overgrowing
commission's-
stuff.
Agrees with that, that's what I would prefer to
Okay.
do.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do originally.
That's great, yeah.
That's
I'm only
kind
gonna,
of,
I'm only gonna jump in here again, because I think you need to have a little flexibility with what you're approving here.
Right.
I think the commission would like to see kind of what you're proposing, but I think that has to be subject to meeting the requirements of the liquor ordinance.
correct.
Because I think
Sure.
that requires a 3-foot barrier, and I don't think it can be a vegetative barrier, but I'm not an expert in that, so I
The
think.
top, it will
Well-
still be a solid 3 foot.
Right, so I don't want anybody to think they're gonna get a 2-foot wall with 1 foot of privet hedges or something like that.
No.
But it's I think what you want to do is give them the flexibility to have a softened planted top to the wall that meets the liquor code.
Right.
That is
Yeah.
correct.
It's going to be a 3-foot planter.
Yeah,
Yes,
The edge of the planter would be up to what would be
it will
the
be a
3-foot top of the
3-foot
wall.
planter with decorative, with natural stone outside.
Okay.
I got it.
That's what it will be.
okay.
Okay.
Let's try it.
Let's give it a shot. Okay, so, the proposal for 201 South Third Street is approved with certain modifications, which include the code height wall around the facility to include a built-in planter box. And that the pergola will be constructed in a single direction, east-west,
Yes.
in front.
Members in a single, if you add members to that, that may
Yeah,
help.
single direction
Members.
members.
Yes.
Okay,
Rock on.
You handled that masterfully.
Great.
I tried.
can I get a second?
I'm second. Good job, George.
Thanks, Jewel.
We could actually discuss if you had any discussion, or,
No.
does that
No, it's great.
Does that meet everyone's expectations? Okay, can you call the roll?
Hartman,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Solomon,
Aye.
Stazen,
Aye.
Zelmer.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
All right, get to
Thank you.
work.
Good
on
luck.
Thursday.
All right, fantastic.
Good luck,
Thank you.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Can I ask a quick clarification, Michael? For the next steps, does it go to the building department, or does it conclude here with, as far as permit-wise?
Sure. So you will need to submit any revised details. I don't think you need to do a full submittal. I think you just need to provide a few details
What I just did.
so that the building department's aware of what you're building. So
Yep.
again, I think they can be 8.5 by 11. They can even be probably sketch details, but just clearly of how this planter wall is going to
Yeah,
look.
from a staff level, though.
Yes, it'll all be staff level at
Yeah,
this point.
understood. Okay, okay.
And the sooner you get in, the sooner we can get to work on that.
Understood. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Thank
I
you.
can expose things because that's what the customer wanted. But
Okay.
you know. Okay. Anyway, good. Yeah.
Okay, with that, we'll go to our next item on our agenda. Hold on one second.
Next item on our agenda is 522 Franklin Street, which is a request for siding replacement at a contributing property. The location of the property is in the far southwestern corner of the local historic district.
Michael, turn on your,
All right, in the southwestern corner of the Central Geneva Historic District. The house at 522 Franklin Street was built for Maud Leonards between 1921 and 1922 by Taylor W. Gibbs of LaFox, Illinois. T.W. Gibbs was a prolific contractor at Geneva through the early 20th century. This is one of the buildings we have documented as a T.W. Gibbs residence. Originally, Maud Leonards had acquired a lot where the Sixth Street School was built, which is now the site of the Geneva Public Library. But when that property was purchased for the school, Miss Leonards bought this Franklin Street property. The Maud Leonards house incorporates a street-facing gable with a broken pediment indicative of classical architecture. The 522 Franklin Street property was recently acquired by Leah Adeo, who intends to complete a substantial rehabilitation of the long-neglected property. Pending projects to be completed over time include siding replacement, porch reconstruction, exterior painting, roof replacement, chimney repair, and demolition and reconstruction of the existing garage. Currently, the majority of the siding has cupped, split, and warped. In many areas, the siding has been patched poorly, which coincidentally provides an outline of where the historic porch had originally stood. The initial project and immediate request is to replace the severely deteriorated historic wood siding and trim with new wood siding and trim to match the existing, including metal corners that were an original construction detail. Presumably, fascia and eave details that are able to be preserved would be preserved to the greatest extent possible. Due to deferred maintenance by a previous owner, the historic wood siding is identified by the applicant and contractor as unsalvageable. The siding appears to have been sandblasted at some point in the history of the house, and that sandblasting, combined with poor maintenance and long-term water infiltration, has hastened the deterioration of the original wood siding. I want to point out that the contractor who's here tonight representing the project looked at multiple alternatives over the last several months trying to deal with this, looking at one point at seeing if the material could be patched, which I think the estimates that we discussed was somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 to 85% of the original material was beyond salvage. Oh, here we go again. And also looked at installing kind of a traditional contemporary composite siding of either LP Smart side with traditional wood, with traditional corner trim, etc., or a Hardy product. Because the LP Smart Siding is out of manufacture with the smooth siding, smooth face that's required by our local siding policy, as well as for the project qualify for a state tax assessment freeze project. That was ruled out because that's not going to be reintroduced into the market until probably the fourth quarter of this year. And the Hardy cement fiber siding just was not going to give the same look and couldn't replicate like the corner details and things like that. So the decision was made by the owner and the contractor to use cedar siding and try to replicate the historic siding as closely as possible. In review of the SOI standards, Standard 1, the property shall be used for its historic purpose. It will continue to be used as a single-family residence. Standard number 2, the historic character of the property shall be retained and preserved. The character will be preserved with the installation of new siding. However, the historic siding, as we've mentioned, is beyond salvage in the opinion not only of the current contractor. I should mention the owner had actually had at least one other contractor looking at this project, and they also came to the conclusion that siding repair was not possible. SOI Standard 5, distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize the property shall be preserved. As I said, they are not proposing to go to corner boards, but actually replicate the metal corners that were part of the original construction. SOI Standard 6 identifies that deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced, except where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of a distinctive feature. In those cases, the new feature shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, where possible, materials. And again, the applicant believes that that is what is being proposed under this request. Standard 8 is regarding significant archaeological resources. There are have been no archaeological investigations undertaken on this site, and there's been no archaeological elements identified in any previous assessment. Again, the porch and the front yard have been altered, so we assume that any archaeological elements immediately adjacent to the house have been disturbed through previous work. Under the adopted design guidelines for historic properties, the building will be preserved as a historic building. The original roof form and features will be restored. Historic building materials will not be retained, but will be replicated as closely as possible to the existing materials and details. The architectural details will be replicated, or where possible at the eave, and that's maybe a question we need to delve into more, is how much of the fascian, eave, and soffit details can be retained. And then the original historic windows will be retained in this project as well. I noted earlier that in 2006, there was a window replacement that was approved by this commission, and the windows that you see mostly that are white here are the ones that were replaced in 2006 with HPC approval. Again, as I mentioned, prior to this request, the applicant worked closely with staff seeking alternatives to complete replacement of the historic siding and trim material, and came to the conclusion that the new material was the best option. I've included here images that were included in the staff report, as well as a few others, to show the basic condition around the building. You can see that some of the siding is just rotted beyond even being able to be adhered by the nails. The nails have rusted off, and so the wood is literally hanging. There are some historic soffit details, but again, as you can see from this corner, the soffits have rotted out, but the rake and the freeze board still do remain in place, but I don't know the condition of them from visual inspection from the ground. Again, a lot of weather and deterioration. You can see where the sandblasting had abraded the wood. You can see where windows have been filled in over time in the image on the right, to the left of the chimney. There's been extensive patching. On the left is actually the patching around the east side where the historic porch roof would have been located at some point, and instead of toothing it in that would have been expected in good craftsmanship, it was just butt jointed, and that led to actually more infiltration of water and more damage to those wood elements. On the right, you can see the line just above the mailbox, which is another indication of the extent of the original front porch. That's on the north facade of the building. Again, just some details of the deterioration and the effects of the sandblasting on the wood itself. Again, some more examples of ghosting that give some clues as to what the original front porch, where it was located and what some of the details may have been. Image of some of the most severely cupped and warped siding, as well as the original metal corners. And then, just because this is going to be a future phase, this will tie into the siding, and the owners expressed an interest to do this as quickly as possible, but wanted to get the siding project started, is the reconstruction of the front porch. The only image that we have of the front porch of this house is a 1930 Sanborn fire insurance map that shows approximately 2/3 of the north facade was covered, and it returned approximately one bay back on the east side. I've shown other examples of period neoclassical porches, colonial revival porches from the late Victorian through the early modern era. So there's an example of a kind of, again, a late Victorian queen four-square, more of a gable front building, and then actually a prairie-style building with this neoclassical porch. You can see that the elements vary in detail, but typically they were either full-length columns or columns that rose from pedestals with railings spanning between the piers. Again, they're not proposing any detail or design at this point. The goal tonight is to get the siding project reviewed and approved, hopefully, and then deal with the porch soon after, but it will be coming on the tail of the siding replacement. So with that, I'd like to turn the lectern over to Dave Watkiss from Jarvis Exteriors, who is the general contractor and representing Leah Adeo.
Thank you, Michael. So as Michael described, we're basically undergoing this project as a renovation, primarily with the siding. We're proposing using cedar in a 6-inch beveled edge to reproduce a 4.5-inch reveal, which is basically what's on the home at the moment. We've also been able to procure metal corners in support of the design that currently exists. And then the proposed color is about the only thing I know of at the moment. The customer would like to go with white. So we do have primed clear cedar siding that's on order. And the option is possibly to have it pre-painted with 2 coats as well, or painted on site afterwards. So, but at the moment, the only thing I do know, the homeowner is looking for white. My goal would be to put on one of the premium products. I think it's called Aura, which is probably the best exterior paint that we could put on there to prevent chipping, fading, etc.
The metal corners, those would be new, correct?
Absolutely. Yes,
Absolutely
we have
new.
to remove what's there.
Yeah.
They're bent, and
Yeah.
the sandblasting affected them too.
Yeah.
I think we have no choice but to replace them all. I have approximately 300 estimated in the job.
Oh, okay. Are those usually the same color as the,
Now, they're gonna come raw, but we would paint them to match.
Okay.
Yeah. we'll
and are
paint
they
the whole-
galvanized metal, or are they,
It looks like galvanized, basically, just a raw white. Yep.
yeah?
It's just a pretty much a straight edge, right? Little bevel to them. And there's a cup underneath, so it basically completes and drips properly.
So what is the exposure now on the existing home for the siding?
For the reveal?
4?
It's a 4.5. Yep.
4.5?
Yep, I measured it.
And it'll be 4.5?
Yeah, we're gonna go with the
Okay.
6-inch
Yeah.
siding to produce a 4.5-inch reveal. Correct.
The corner boards, the trim around the windows, just call it a 1x4 or 5/4.
A lot of what I have quoted is
Is-
1x4.
So that'll be replicated the way it is now?
Exactly, we want to reproduce exactly what's there. So I have everywhere there's 1x4 or 1x6 or 1x8, I have that procured already for the trim, the fascia, soffit, and all of the window and door treatments. We're just going to replicate exactly what's there. As of last Thursday, the homeowner did send me a photograph of what she'd like the porch to look like. In that one photo, Michael, you had with the 3 homes in the black and white. I'd say the closest representation I could give you would be the far right picture. Right, yeah, that
Yeah.
one there. She wants to go with a much smaller appearance. She did not like the idea of going around the corner. I know that originally that probably was the design, but she'd like to keep it pretty straightforward. If you go back through those photos, I think there is a close-up of the corner. You can see, yeah, there's the metal corners that exist. You can kind of, one back, there you go. On the right side, you can kind of see the condition of them. They're not only beat up, they're dented. They need to be replaced to make this look correct. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
So the fascias, there, well, the soffit boards, there's no soffit in there. It looks like there's missing a soffit at that point.
There's quite a bit of missing boards. There's an open exposed gable vent that is, I think, missing 2 louvers. And I've tried to warn the customer that she needs to get that dealt with. So there's no
Yeah.
critters getting up top.
I'm sure
'cause
she
that
has
is-
bats in
Oh,
there.
they've been there, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But that is definitely open to raccoons and possums and larger animals to get into.
Yeah.
It needs to be shored up.
Is it gonna be a vented soffit, or is there any kind of?
If we reproduce it to match what's existing, we will definitely put a screen behind that and have it a functional vented
Okay.
soffit.
Was it a vented soffit to start with, or?
I don't know, honestly, what was there, but we'll do our best to make sure that it meets code that the roof breathes properly.
Yeah, I'm
Even if
sure
we
that-
have to hide the elements by painting them.
Yeah, if you have a louver on one end and one on the other end, you may not have to vent the soffit at all, to tell you the truth.
More than likely, yeah. She does have roof vents on it now, so, as
Okay.
long as the top is breathing, that's one thing, but
Yeah.
we do have to have proper uptake.
Yeah,
But we'll do everything to match code.
okay. And what, do you have a picture of the vent, the vent on it, Michael?
That gable vent,
The gable vent?
Yes.
it's on the right elevation near the driveway.
And we'll get there.
It's there.
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
You can see it's basically looks like, almost like a window. It's
Yeah.
pretty much wide open.
It also has quite a collection of carpenter bees,
Yes,
because they were quite prevalent the day I was trying to photograph it.
yes. We expect that will be part of our concern as we do the demo. There is a bit of a gap too with the chimney, where the chimney does not quite shore up against the home. So I have a mason coming out to inspect that to find out exactly what we're gonna have to do to properly secure it to the structure. Because there is a significant gap as you go up the top. It is leaning away from the home. So I want to make sure that is not a dangerous element.
The chimney appears to be a, like, post-World War II addition to the house.
It doesn't look original.
Well,
Yeah, I don't
the
believe
brick
it is.
doesn't look original, I'll tell you that, because I know that from that,
From what I understand, it is only used for the furnace venting. It is not an actual fireplace.
oh,
Go,
So that comes up from the basement.
The stucco on the top.
you can see there was
Well, I
a
think-
window
yeah, there was a window right there, yeah.
for this chimney, and you can see the gap.
Yes, you can.
It gets significantly worse as you go up.
Is that a smooth brick there? It looks like it is.
Is the building moving or is the chimney moving?
I'm not sure yet. That's why I want the mason to come out and inspect it with me, let me know what we need to do it properly.
Some of those elevations we saw, the structure itself.
To me, it looks like the structure's done some settling. It doesn't look so much that the chimney's doing it, but it is definitely separating somewhere towards the top. It gets worse.
So will you run the siding to visually?
What I'd like to do first is make
George,
sure
if
if we
you're
do
gonna-
lift that
if-
off.
turn
is-
on your-
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
If we do go to secure that, what I want to do is make sure when we take the siding off, that we somehow get that secured properly to the structure. And then we can side right up against it and put proper inside corners on it and maybe trim that
Yeah,
out
but
properly.
your outside corners, you could actually square them.
They won't be a problem, right?
Right, yeah.
The inside where that meets, we
Okay.
definitely have to get that gap closed up and make
Yeah.
sure that we seal
yeah.
it properly as well. So we will address it. I just want to make sure Mason has an opportunity to look at it and tell me it is not the chimney that we have to deal with.
Sure. Great.
That's painted brick, right? They
Yes, it is
painted the
painted.
lower portion and then,
Correct. It is painted.
okay. Oh, go ahead.
I have a question. I think in our information, the garage, is that going to be demolished in the
goal,
future?
the ultimate goal for the homeowner is to demolish it and rebuild a new two-car detached garage. We'll obviously adhere to what we have to replace it with a historical appearance to match what we do with the home. We have not bidded that out yet, but she does intend on taking it down because it is, I think by myself and other contractors that had a chance to look at it, and I think Michael would probably agree, it's better to be taken down than to try to fix it.
Does that also have metal corners on the siding, or is that
No, it
different?
actually doesn't match up with
Okay.
much else right now.
But that's not part of this permit.
No, it's not.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, right now, I'm only under contract to replace the siding at the moment. We literally just learned last week that she'd like to do the porch too, so I have to get that designed and coded.
Yeah.
That will involve removal and disposal of that brick and concrete step that is coming up to the home. So we will have to deal with that. I don't know if that's something else I need to address with the historical committee, but,
That'll be staff, so
Okay.
administrative.
okay.
So are you changing, you're not changing out any of the windows at all?
At this moment, no, we don't have any of that quoted. If the homeowner were to require any of the windows to be swapped out because she wants to go with energy efficient replacements, our intent is to leave them as just replacements. So we would not change the dimensions of the openings. We would just get them sized exactly to what is there currently.
Yeah, that's, you'd have to, on at least any front-facing ones, you'd have to come in front of us to discuss that, right,
Understood.
Michael?
Right. Any that are visible from the street, and quite honestly, and we would go back to the first architectural break on the east and west facades, so, or elevations, so there would be quite a few windows that would be under your review per the window policy.
If we get there, we will definitely bring it
Sure.
up to the committee, of
Okay.
course. At the moment, I know she has a few that were replaced probably before she took possession of the home. We know they're Energy Star rated and others are not.
Yeah. The doors, they're staying the way they are?
I don't know exactly what we're gonna have to do with the doors. The side, I believe everything's supposed to stay, but we may have to do some structural integrity,
To get it to,
build up there, because I believe the side door currently is blocked with furniture so that no one even attempts to go through it. The homeowner is not real confident that it's sound.
Okay.
I have not gotten to inspect it to that level, but I believe she's right, based on the appearance.
Is that
We'll
past the
probably have to
first
build it up.
break, or is that?
No, that's within the first break. Now, depending on how the porch is built, it might not, it might be past the first break.
Okay.
There's multiple projects that she would like to complete. There's only one before you now, which is the siding.
Siding.
And I don't believe, I don't believe that a decision's been made yet, but whether or not this is going to be a tax assessment freeze project, it sounds like that Leah Deo is interested in that, but we haven't pursued it yet, and that's also going to add another layer of review to some of these future projects as well.
And Michael and Leah and I are all actually pending an appointment next week to meet at her home to discuss some of these elements.
Any questions, Don? Comments?
No, he's answered them pretty thoroughly.
George, anything?
Nope.
Joel?
No, you did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Kevin and George? Yeah. Well, can I get a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the replacement in-kind historic wood siding to a contributing property, 522 Franklin Street.
I would second that motion.
Call the roll.
Hartman,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Solomon,
Aye.
Stazen,
Aye.
Zelmer.
Aye. Motion, good luck.
Thank you all for your time.
Have
Thank
fun.
you.
Thank
you for
you.
coming in. Oh? Yeah, that,
We'll be in touch, yep.
good luck. Okay.
What is this, a new tradition? I feel like I'm
I
at a
guess,
hockey
I don't
game.
know.
We on the losing side of the hockey,
I think we are.
or what?
Okay, with that, we have, the next item on our agenda is Secretary's report.
I have nothing this evening.
Oh, good. Okay, any new business from the commission?
Nope.
No? Okay. Anything from the public? I don't see anything. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're adjourned.